Okay, this is the first training session on Scratch with WeDo, and this is assuming that you're going to do the Lion build, as you can see here in the video. Um, I'm just going to sort of wing this, so it might be a little bit rough, but I think you can follow along. So first of all, you got to open up Scratch, and this also makes the assumption that you have um, somebody has put the proper plugins in place. So if you go down here to more blocks, the Lego WeDo plugin should come up. If they do not, then there's an installation process that has to go into place. Very briefly, if you go over here, oops, this drawer's not pulling out. There you go. If you go over here and click on, that's the wrong one. If you go to all tips and then go to blocks and then extensions and do Lego WeDo and follow along here. Click on extensions here, and then for the Chrome browser you have to download this file and also download a plugin modifier here. So if you read through that, it will help you get started. Once you download and install the new plugin for Chrome and also do the extension here, then you have to shut down your Chrome browser, plug in your WeDo block in the USB port, and then bring the browser back up and bring Scratch back up, and then it should show. So, but this tutorial is making the assumption that that's already been done for you. So we go in here in the blocks. What we're going to do very simply is we're going to get the lion to sit up and make a sound, and then sit back down, lay back down, and make a sound. And so the way we're going to do this is walking the students through various blocks. And so when we first introduce the students to Lego to Scratch, and once again, this is also assuming that they've done the build part first. But then we come in here, and there are various drawers here. So if you look, in fact, your Scratch may look more like this when it first shows up. This little triangle here minimizes and maximizes. I would put it in this mode for this instruction because we're not going to do anything with the cat on the stage here. But anyhow, the blocks are arranged. If this is your first time to Scratch, the blocks are arranged in these drawers, and these are motion blocks. These are blocks that control how the actor on stage looks. Sound blocks, we're going to actually use that one. Pin, data, events, we're going to use the event drawer for this one. Controls, sensing, operations, and then under more blocks, since we've installed the Lego WeDo blocks, the more blocks show up here. So I'm going to unclick tilt. So to build this, we're going to go on an event, and we're going to want the lion to sit up when we hit the U key. So I'm going to get the when space key pressed block, and then scroll down here to U. So by clicking this down arrow, you can get this selection, and I scroll down to U. So when the U key is pressed, what do I want to do? Well, I want to set the motor direction, and we're just going to call it this way. Now it may be, depending on the motor you have and how it's hooked up, it may be to sit up you need to change this to, instead of this way, that way. So that controls the clockwise, counterclockwise rotation, so that may have to be tweaked. But I think for my example, this way is the right way. And so then we want to control the power. We don't want the power at 100. That'll make the motor run too fast. So through trial and error, I have come up with a power setting of 50, which is 50%. Once again, all this allows for, depending on the students you're dealing with, you can talk about clockwise, counterclockwise rotation with the direction block. You can talk about percentages, and idea that 100 is maximum power, so 50 would be half the power, and introduce those kinds of concepts. Then we want to go to how long we want the motor on for. So we're going to turn motor on for, and this is a trial and error. Through some trial and error, I got 0.8 seconds. Now, once again, you can talk about the idea of fractions of a second. These are third graders for the most part, and introducing them to this idea of parts of a whole may be good here. If not, then just tell them to put in point 8 and go for it. Then we want to play a sound. So if you go here to the sound drawer, I want to play a sound, and you notice here that the default sound is meow. And actually, if you already have your Lion hooked up to this, if you click this whole thing, it will actually run. I was going to wait until I get the down action going as well. So let's get the down action going. So I'm going to duplicate this. So I right click on the top block and hit duplicate, and now I have a duplicate or copy of that. So I want to change it so that when I hit the D key on the keyboard, A, B, C, D, there you go, the motor's going to turn the other way, so I'm going to change that to that way. And now, through trial and error, because the line's going to be going down, you don't need as much power, and this is a good thing to discuss with the students. You only need 40% of the power because gravity is helping the Lion come down. So actually there's a bit of science as well as math with this. And then because gravity's pulling it down, you don't need it to go for as long, so I'm going to put 0.6 seconds. Now, your times and powers may vary based on the motors you have, but I think this does a pretty good job in having it stand all the way up without it overstanding, and then have it come back down without the legs going in the opposite direction. And if you play with this long enough, you'll understand what I mean. The idea is to get it to stand straight up and then come down and lay flat. Okay, so now if I hit the U key on my keyboard and we watch the Lion here, he stands up, and you just heard that loud sound in the background. That's the meow. If I hit the D key, he sits down, and that you heard the meow again. Now, those aren't really sounds that are indicative of stand up, sit down. The meow is, but for having to sit down, I sort of wanted him to go back to sleep. So I was looking through the sound library, and the way you do that is you go to sound here, and then go to the sounds tab, and this is the meow sound. It's the default sound, but if you want to, the students could record their own, but I highly advise you don't get into that unless you have a lot of time, because that will imply that you need microphones and you have a lot of sound in the room and the sounds won't be clear, so I wouldn't advise that. Go over here to the library of sounds, clicking the speaker icon, and this brings up the library of sounds. You can look at all of them. If I go here to animal, I like the meow 2 sound better than the meow sound, so I'm going to double click that and it adds it to my library. And then I'm going to go back, and just because I've seen this before, I'm going to go to effects, and there is a cricket sound somewhere. I guess I forgot where it is. Let's see, let's go to all, just do alphabetical order. There is crickets here. Okay, so that's a cricket sound. So it's like crickets at night. So in the WeDo environment, there was actually a roar and a snore, but I couldn't find them here in the Scratch environment, so we'll just use these two. Okay, so now that I've added these sounds here to my library, I go back to script, and actually I can just go over to my blocks. Now they're a part of the drop-down menu here on Play Sounds, and so I'm going to choose Meow 2 for the sit-up, and I'm going to choose, whoops, as you can see, the Lion undershot there. So if that ever happens, very gently, because I knocked his head off, put that back on, sit his legs back down, and so you want to sort of start him at the flat here. So, alright, now click here, and then go to crickets for the sound that plays on the D key. So now, if I hit U, oops, he stands up, and you get a meow, and then if I hit D on the keyboard, he sits down, and you get cricket sounds. So that's the first programming code that you introduce the students to. Now, once they get that down, then you can start playing a little bit and expanding their knowledge and their thought process. So I'm going to put these blocks over here to the side and create another program, if you will, another script. So I'm going to create this one, and I want it to do both. So I'm going to want it to, just on one key press, I'm going to want it to stand up, meow, and then lay back down and hear the cricket sounds. And so I'm going to hit events. I already did that. Drag over space. And since it's doing both actions, I'm going to choose the letter B to activate this. And then I'm going to right click and duplicate my stand up. Put that in there. And then between the stand up and sit down, I'm going to want it to wait. So I'm going to go back here to the control drawer and grab the top block with wait. And I want it to wait for, I don't know, let's say 2 seconds. And then I'm going to put my mouse over the second block in my down sequence, right click that, duplicate, and then drag this over and put it under wait. So now when you hit the B key, the motor's going to turn this way, power up to 50%, and turn for 0.8 seconds, play the meow sound, wait for 2 seconds, then the motor direction is going to change to that way, power up to 40%, turn, and then do the turn for 0.6 seconds, and then play the crickets. So you'll get the full sequence with one keystroke. And so I hit B, and there you go. So that's the second programming iteration that I would do with the students. Now the third one, we're going to introduce the concept of repeats and having it do it multiple times. And so once again, I'm going to go to events. I'm going to do the when key pressed again, and I'm going to use the R key for repeat. And then what I want to do is go to control, grab the repeat brackets, which is the second block down, and then I'm going to start off repeating it. Let's just go 3 times. Now I want to take all my instructions here that I did for both and put it in the repeat block. So I'm going to go to the second block here, right click, hit duplicate, and drag that and put it in there. Okay, and then you can actually scroll over here because I'm off the screen. Okay, now this is sort of right, but if I do it, what you're going to notice is when it gets to the bottom here, it's going to immediately start at the top, and I want it to wait for a little bit here at the bottom. So I'm going to get another wait block from control, drag and drop that under this play. You can see I can get it in there. There you go. Now I want to change my time here. I'm going to wait for 4 seconds down here because that gives the cricket sound enough time to play. Okay, and it should do this 3 times. So here we go. Whoops, hit the wrong button. Hit the R key. Okay, so that's the third programming. That introduces this concept of repeat. But if you know how to program, that's the iteration. That's whiles and fors and all of that. So it's a really good concept to introduce. All right, now this next one, and let me adjust my line. It looks like it's getting off the screen there. This next one involves using the wand. So if they built this little wand thing, there's a tilt sensor in this wand, and we can access this tilt sensor. And this sensor is sort of sensitive, I guess as a sensor should be. So we'll have to play around with this a little bit. So let's go back here to more blocks. And if you go down here at the bottom of the WeDo blocks and get the when tilt block. And if you go down here also at the bottom, and there's a box next to this button called tilt. If you click on that box, you notice that up here in the stage area, there is an information box that pops up on stage. And for this case, you might want to right click there to make it a little bit bigger. So what this will allow us to do is to look and see when we're doing the tilt sensor, sort of to figure out which way is causing what data. So I think the best I can tell, and this is sort of hard to control, if I go up and down, I get a 3. If I rotate, I get a 4. And if I do side to side, I'll get a 2 every once in a while. So what I think I'm going to do is do up and down. So that's a 3. So when the tilt is equal to 3, I want it to sit up, so I'm going to right click my sit up sequence here, like I've done before, and put that under there. And then I'm going to get another one here and change this to 2, which should detect the rocking of side to side. And then I'm going to right click my sit down sequence and put this here. So now what should happen is when I pick up this sensor and tilt it, he stands up, and if I go side to side, yeah, it's a bit confusing. He sits back down. So movement of the sensor will cause, and it's not exactly accurate because the tilt sensor is a little, as I said, sensitive, but you get the idea, and it's still sort of cool. So those are the 4 programming scripts that we'll use with the Lion, and so this concludes the first training session. What I highly recommend is that you play around with it, get your own style, get an idea of what you want to teach the students, and go from there. I will have a PowerPoint included that will show you all of these codings. Let's see if I can get them on the screen. There you go. There you go. So I'll just leave this here. I don't need to do a PowerPoint. Leave this here, and you guys can check that out and use it as you see fit. Okay? Good luck.